Hello, and thank you all very much for being here. My name is David Flanagan, and along with my colleague Tim Palmer, we're just going to give a short overview of our paper, Who Wants to Be a CEO? A Study of the Intentions of Undergraduate Business Students to Someday Be an Organization's Top Executive. Business schools, we all know, have an important role to play in leadership development. Studying students' top leadership intentions can help us better equip young leaders with needed skills, experience, and attitudes to develop into potential top executive candidates. Now, we're not suggesting training students to be CEOs is something we should all incorporate into every class or even any class. But this is something where maybe through guest speakers, maybe working with student clubs, and definitely working with things like the strategic management class, having a discussion of what the CEO does, why it might be advantageous to be CEOs, getting students to really understand a little bit more about what that role is about, and they might work better within their organizations, and they might also keep that in the back of their mind as they begin to develop and work on their careers. We want to know, are certain types of students really interested in being top executives? We may be able to have some special guest speakers for them, special independent research projects, things like that. Are certain types of students not interested in being top executives or CEOs? And is their disinterest valid, or do they feel somehow that the media portrays CEOs as unethical and I don't want to be that, or that's just not for me? If those interests or lack of interests are based on some faulty beliefs, we'd like to be able to address that. So again, we want to know why. Are students' beliefs or attitudes about the CEO role valid? And how can we help students make good choices and how to develop their careers? And that's what's really important in the end. Now, again, some people may say, well, my gosh, becoming a CEO, that's going to be 20 years into the future, 30 years in the future, maybe 40 years in the future for these people. But laying that groundwork can be important in keeping people just open-minded to saying, yes, that could be something I would be interested in someday, may drive the type assignments they take, their attitudes towards it. And we're talking about students during a very impressionable time. And psychology, there's an impressionable years hypothesis that posits that during early adulthood, approximately age 18 to 25, individuals are very susceptible to changing their attitudes and values. That's when we have them. Unfortunately, after age 25, this susceptibility diminishes and remains low for the rest of a person's life, and there's lots of sites on this. We would really like to get a feel of our students' beliefs and try to keep them at least somewhat open-minded towards various career paths, or maybe excited about the potential of certain career paths. Again, we're not talking about CEO training here, and we're not talking about everybody can be a CEO, but having some people open and knowledgeable about that position in a sincere way is certainly important. Now, we're not going to answer all of these questions with study. Our main research question here is what factors drive the intentions of undergraduate business students to someday be an organization's top executive? We feel this is an important first question to ask. Do we have some students that are, yes, I definitely, that's an intention that I have to at least work towards that? And do we have other students saying, no way, never? And are those real beliefs valid is something we would follow up on going forward. What affects those beliefs? Now, the contribution of our research, studies haven't really looked directly at why some students determine to be CEOs or not. One study, and it's mentioned in the paper, talks about someone who looked at men versus women for top leadership roles like CFO, CEO, being a senator, stuff like that, and found that men tended to have higher intentions towards that than women. There have been some other studies out there that have looked at intentions to lead in general. But I think the contribution of our research to the literature, one, we're going to use a well-established framework to examine intentions, the theory of planned behavior as a guide. And we think this is important. Other studies have done a really neat job looking at certain variables, and we learned a lot from those studies. But using that well-established framework can really help us, and I think we believe it show that we get good results with it. Also, Our study focuses on determinants of a student's intentions to become the top executive of a company, the CEO, or the president. Now, the theoretical framework, again, is a theory of planned behavior. It proposes that our intentions to act in a certain way are a highly consistent predictor of actual behavior. And here, the intention, I don't think, is this person will be a CEO, but it's something that they're going to be open to and something that they may put in the time to think about with regard to their training and what type of assignments that they take. Now, the model of the theory of planned behavior is very well cited. Google Scholar has cited the original book by Isaac Asian 67,000 times or more at this point. So this is a good framework to start with. And what it basically says is 3 major beliefs drive intentions. And for us, we'll start with the behavioral beliefs. We ask people, would being a CEO or president of an organization be attractive to you? A normative belief. Would being a CEO or president of an organization be looked upon positively by your family or people who matter to you? And then control beliefs. Do you think you have or could develop the skills and knowledge needed to become the CEO of an organization? This will lead to intentions, is what we are measuring, which we think will lead to behaviors in the future of at least being open and working towards possibly being in a position to be a CEO at some point. Now, the sample we used, given we're talking about students, was students. It was an electronic extra credit survey done in 2 large sections of a required business class at a large Midwestern university. 500 were surveyed, 407 were completed. We kept 272 surveys from respondents that indicated they planned to primarily work for an existing organization, one they did not start or purchase. We didn't want people that were going to be CEOs by virtue of being entrepreneurs. That's an important question and very interesting, but we didn't want it to be confounded. Was it about being the CEO or was it about starting an organization? We were more interested in people that saw themselves joining an organization and then working towards possibly becoming top-level manager, CEO of the organization. Our dependent variable, we simply asked respondents to indicate their level of agreement with the statement, I intend to someday be my organization's top executive, such as its CEO. And we had them answer that on a 5-point Likert scale. The main independent variables, respondents were asked to indicate, again, their level of agreement on a 5-to-1 scale. Someday being my organization's top executive, such as CEO, would be attractive to me. It's something that they say, yeah, that would be a neat thing to do. Would others, the normative belief, people who are important to me, would they think it was a good thing if someday I was an executive or a CEO? And can I really develop the knowledge and skills to become an organization's top executive, such as a CEO? So the control beliefs. Now, we asked a lot of other questions as well for control variables. Here, of the variables that we use in our analysis, here are the correlation matrix. And a few things I just want to point out. All these behavioral beliefs were very highly correlated to each other, to gender, and all, again, were correlated strongly with top executive intentions. We also had significant others. Do other people in your life, have they been top executives? That is something that was also so highly correlated with intentions and with behavioral beliefs. Is it a good thing to do? Now, getting to multivariate analysis, we first ran the model here with just the control variables. And we picked these control variables from the literature. Gender is one that definitely comes out. And then, do influential others, did they have they been CEOs, people that they know? Now, gender, again, strong negative. Women tend to be less likely to show intentions to be CEOs. When we add the variables from the theory of planned behavior, we get a very strong R-squared with that. An interesting thing is all of these are positive and in the direction we would expect. Gender ends up being insignificant. Now, we thought that was important. So that was our puzzle. The literature tells us gender is important. It's highly correlated in 2 variable correlations with our dependent and main independent variables. So we wanted to look into this more. Again, gender is not a significant predictor in our regression model. And so we referred to an article that appeared in the Journal of Management on tharking versus sharking. Tharking is transparently hypothesizing about relationships after the results are known. That's what we're going to do here. That's opposed to sharking. We could have gone back and fixed all of our hypotheses and secretly said, oh, we knew all this from the start, but we didn't. We learned from doing this. And in fact, in this article by Hollenbeck and Wright, they argue that tharking is very credible and productive exercise, and they in fact argue that the discussion sections of all empirical papers analysis. So our big question here was, are the behavioral, normative, and control beliefs of the theory of planned behavior mediating the relationship between gender and top executive intentions? And we find that they are. Using Causalmed and SAS, here we show that gender's overall impact on intentions is a negative 0.7. But, for instance, behavioral beliefs, the indirect impact of behavioral beliefs swamps any direct effect of gender on intentions. The normative beliefs and control beliefs, they partially mediate it. Taking as a whole, we're very confident that all these variables are just mediating out gender in the model that we use. Hence, a better way to look at this is that gender is impacting behavioral beliefs, normative beliefs, and control beliefs, and that is what is influencing intentions. Some good research projects in the future, especially, is to understand how and why is gender affecting behavioral beliefs, how and why is it affecting normative beliefs, and how and why is it affecting control beliefs, this linkage through right here. Now, as a discussion, we think that Asian's model provides a useful framework to gain insights into students' top leadership aspirations, but we did learn that we need to look out for those mediating variables. It can be used as a good framework, looking at other populations, looking at the determinants, as I mentioned, of the theory of planned behavior beliefs. Also surveying studies of CEOs or qualitative studies that uncover what are CEOs' beliefs about their jobs, because these would be great things to share with our students. Using it as a framework to prepare or coach students, to coach guest speakers, especially CEOs that you bring into the classroom or bring in by Skype or WebEx. Have them talk about their theory of planned behavior beliefs about being CEO. Do they like being it? How did they develop the skills? Do people around them seem to think it's a good thing, or were there conflicts there? And that can help give our students really good feels for what it is like to be a CEO, so they can make good decisions. Business schools also may want to take the time to investigate their own students' career intentions to work to make sure classes and programs lead to students having informed theory of planned beliefs about leadership. Also, with all research and activities with students, we really emphasize special care needs to be taken to ensure female top executives are highlighted along with their male counterparts. It's sad and it's kind of a waste of skills if we don't see women showing as strong of intention as men to someday be the CEO. So make sure in class we're using examples of excellent women CEOs. We're inviting CEOs from outside the class to come and speak. Make sure that when we're talking about CEOs, we don't use adjectives like the CEO and his company. We want to use gender neutral language in those things, because something, and more research needs to be done, is causing women to show lower intentions, at least in our sample, to be CEO. The paper gives you a lot more detail, and thank you so much for listening. Bye.